into game number 1 of the other semifinals match. This will determine who goes up against Red Bandit in the grand finals. So it'll either be a ZVZ or ZVP finals, guys. Unfortunately, all the Terran players have been knocked out of this, so that's how you know it's a real tournament. But no, all jokes aside, there's been some really good games out of everybody so far today, and I look very forward to getting towards the finals here. We've had a lot of really good matches, and this semifinal should prove to be interesting as well. I don't know a lot about Franscar, but I do know a lot about RSVP, so very excited to see how this one ends up playing out. Okay, here we are. Other semifinals. I'm pressing the wrong buttons. Give me 1 sec. There we go. Let's talk about some things before we talk about this match and do introductions. You know what? Let's do introductions first, so I don't forget. Spawning in the lower left corner of the map, he's the red terror, the red Protoss player, RSVP. And his opponent in the lower right, the yellow Zerg player, Franscar. Now, I want to talk about a couple things real quick, because I've seen some people ask about this already in chat, how to play Starbow. Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest thing about Starbow is it's free. You don't even need to own Heart of the Swarm. If you don't have Heart of the Swarm, you don't have Wings of Liberty, that's totally fine. And if you do, even better. But you can download a free version of the game and get 100% of the Blizzard Arcade for free. And that's a key thing about this, because this is a game that lies and lives within the arcade of Blizzard. So you could just play it by searching for Starbow, and you're good to go. Now, it's worth noting, because of this, there's no ladder system implemented. There's no, like, in-game Blizzard tracking of games played, won, lost, points, etc. So the makers of this have actually gone out of their way to make their own ladder, and that's what this tournament is representing. First off, worth noting, number 1, StarbowMod.com is where you can go to learn about Starbow in better detail than I could tell you here on the cast, but also, more importantly, where you can see the ladder and check things out. Now, the other thing about this tournament, guys, is they've asked me to tell you all they're looking for web developers. Even if you're just an amateur, they need some help with their website. They want to improve the ladder. They want to keep things looking cool and up to date. And you can apply by, I guess, replying to the Team Liquid thread, from what I'm told. So if you're a web developer looking for some work, or if you're a Super Gosu Pro looking to be generous, you can donate some time to StarbowMod.com and hope to help improve this for the community. Now, Starbow, because we're having some people start filter over from IEM, I'm going to assume a lot of you don't know everything that's intricate about this game, and well, I can't spend the entire cast because it would literally take away from the entire cast to tell you every small detail about the game. We'll talk about some of the big specifics that'll come into play first off. Mineral income, gas income, it's different in a big way in Starbow. As you see, there's only 1 geyser per base. You might think, like, well, so is gas cheaper in game? No, but you get 8 gas per trip instead of 3. Same with the mineral patches. It's kind of like mining from gold minerals, so you get more off of less bases. That being said, as a Zerg player, larva rejects, larva mechanics in general have been revamped. So unfortunately, you don't get 3 free larvae every like 30 seconds by injecting with your queens. So you're forced to make more bases as well as macro hatcheries. It does change the game up in a little bit more dynamic of a way. Protoss have been overhauled in a big way. The last thing I'll talk about for Zerg players, just as the basics of the basics, creep also no longer provides a speed bonus. It is simply a regen bonus. So you can fight on creep, off creep, doesn't really matter. As for the Protoss players, Warp Tech has been moved to like a tier 3 tech option. It's crazy how different this race is. There's no sentries, there's no force fields. It's changed up the game in a large way. That being said, gateway units are a little bit stronger. The Stalkers are still in the game, but you never see anyone use Stalkers because they're kind of garbage now compared to their counterparts, the Dragoons, which have been resurrected from Brood War and brought into Starbow. Now, I guess the other thing we could touch on is the Hydra's Den is tier 1, no longer requires the layers. And I don't know why that Queen of Rage, I just picked off the probe that was over here. Queen of Rage, by the way, is an on-activate ability that costs 35 energy, but deals a lot more damage than a normal Queen attack would. Going for the Groove Spines right away, so the same ranged upgrade on these Hydralisks. They're not quite the same Hydralisks you guys are used to seeing in StarCraft 2. They don't have the insane attack speed with such an intense amount of damage that it's uncomparable, but they still are really effective early on. And as you can see, they might not have muscular augments by any means, but they still move fast enough off of creep. One Zealot. This is actually an awkward fight. It's kind of like Marines. You have to split them. Do a bit of kiting. The most intense small battle you've ever seen of your life. But Zealots are actually really effective now too. It's worth noting too, the Nexus, sorry, we touched a little bit on the Protoss, but I didn't go too much in depth about it. The Protoss has been reworked as well in terms of Chrono Boost, so you have to actually upgrade your Nexus. It doesn't come pre-built with a Chrono Boost. That's this big, tall, ugly looking nose thing on the top, the Cadrian Crystal upgrade. Chrono Boost is a little more effective though in Starbow than it is in regular StarCraft, because A, it makes gateway units produce 100% faster, not 50% faster like everything else, but you can also use it on a photon cannon to overcharge it, to make it attack faster. So 4 cannons behind this, there's no way these Hydralisks connect. Even if the Zealots weren't here, which they are, the Hydras are not going to break through this wall anytime soon. They might pick off the Forge, they may pick off the Gateway in a best case scenario, but that's a best case scenario. And if you guys are really attentive, and if you're really paying attention to details, you'll notice at this point too, the Hydralisks, they attack with the Brood War sounds and the sort of the pink spit, or not pink, green spit graphic that they used to have once upon a time. Looks like the Forge is going to go down. Not the biggest deal though, because cannons and upgrades are not what Starbow relies upon for Protoss players. It's gateway units. Worth noting too, the Lurker's been brought back into Starbow, guys. It requires layer tech, of course. We just saw an excellent game where Red Bandit basically won purely and entirely thanks to Lurkers and Nazdi throwing away a ton of SCVs, of course, but Lurkers are really effective in this. The splash damage they deal is so hard to deal with. Even if you've got really robust units like Zealots, like Dragoons, Lurkers can ruin your day if you walk into a patch of them. Now, the other thing about Zealots that was changed in a major way, guys, is they no longer have the same charge you're used to seeing. And you will eventually see an upgrade come into this. They recently received a speed boost too. I'm not sure what the old value was. I think it was close to 2. But now it's like 2.25, which it doesn't seem like that much, but it is a huge deal when you consider the fact that charge lots increase the base speed of Zealots, not give them that sort of like boost-in charge move that you're so used to seeing. So these guys are going to move like speedlings. Zealots are basically going to have a metabolic boost, guys. And it's crazy watching them go into effect like that. But I guess another key thing about Starbow, while we kind of meander here in the mid part of the game, is you'll notice units don't have a light. Well, I mean, they do have, like, there's no light, there's no armored. It's medium, it's small, there's hover, I believe. Okay, the drones aren't listed as hover, they used to be. But anyways, everything has different values in this, and there's no bonus damage versus light, there's no bonus damage versus armored. It's all flat ratios that get scaled percentage-wise when you attack a different type of unit. You'll see that come into effect a little bit later. The last thing I'll talk about as we progress through the game, because I think I've covered all the basics of Starbow now for all you lovely people tuning in, is there's a high ground advantage. There's the defender's advantage, and oh my god, that speed kicks in for these Zealots. Look how fast they move with 3.14 pi movement speed. Oh boy, they're speeding around the map. Yeah, they connect to the Hydralisk like it's no big deal. Queen doesn't rage and Spinecrawlers are here, but this might be a little... actually, with the Legacy, maybe it'll just barely hold this. But the Queen's not attacking! The Queen got stuck on the Spinecrawler. That's a huge waste of DPS. Now the Queen's going to die, but yeah, with the Spinecrawler and the Lings and these Hydralisks, he should be fine. Morphs in the Lurkers, a bit of a bold move because he now reveals to RSVP, hey, guess what? There are Lurkers available. That should trigger him to get some observers out rather quick. Side note about RSVP, by the way. Well, actually, hang on, he's in full retreat in the middle of the map. These Zealots may be fast, but metabolic Lings are even faster. Wait until they get their crackling upgrade. The Adrenal Glands makes Zergling so darn effective in the Starbow. You saw an attempt at a recall. I'd actually love to talk on that for a moment. The Cadrian Crystal allows the Nexus to recall units. It's called Rift, not Recall. Sorry. It acts as a recall, though, where it teleports up to 5 units to the Nexus. The problem is, it has this really long delay on it. So, as we saw, the Zealots did, in fact, still die, despite trying. But A for effort in that regard. Still a hell of a lot of cannons on the front line. And Lurkers are, well, they're going to be great at zoning units out, but they, of course, can't really move into cannon fire too easily. Yeah, just kind of shelling away for now. I mean, they'll eventually tear this gateway down, but again, it's not the gateway that's a big deal here in the front lines. This was a bit of Sim City to protect the cannons from the Lings, but now there's going to be a lot of cannons. That Lurker will probably just barely not go down. I guess they buffed the... did they buff the burrow speed? They must have buffed the burrow speed recently. I remember Lurker's taking way longer to burrow than burrow. I could be mistaken about that, but anyways, we got an Archon now, so we got a bit of splash damage going. We got Templars starting to generate that energy. No Storm available just yet, but the one thing I'm a little bit afraid of is the Singularity Charge upgrade feels really late at this point. It was sacrificed in order to get more tech out, but unfortunately, these Dragoons are going to be somewhat neutered when it comes to range. So engaging on top of these Lurkers is out of the question for the time being. And Franscar, while this is going on, by the way, extends his reach on the map. He takes the upper right. It looks like he's... oh, those are Overlords. Never mind. I thought he was sending more drones to the upper left. Ninja bases are kind of whatever. Honestly, the ninja bases are not a big deal, but further away expansions, getting half the map under your control this early, that is huge. And it's kind of boxed in for the time being. An observatory's on the way, so we'll have observers out in due time. But the big problem is, again, he can't do anything. Until those observers are out, he literally cannot do a single thing. Changeling didn't stand a chance. Rest in peace, my friend. Viper Nest is the tech you need to advance towards Hive, guys, so we'll see him eventually move towards Hive tech in a moment's time. Baneling Nest is coming out. I don't think he really needs a Baneling Nest, though, honestly. What I would love to see out of Franscar, though, are some Defilers, some Dark Swarms. Get these units ready to rock and roll and fight and tussle into these cannons. Not that he needs them, but I'm saying, if he's able to extend his lead by that much, he might as well. Because Plague is another effect that's really good versus Protoss players. As it deals damage to the health of the unit, as well as takes him down to 1 health. You can't kill it, but it's a hell of a lot of damage. And Zealots coming at you with 1 health are not the scariest things in the world at all. And the worst thing, too, is like if your units are plagued and you throw down a storm, guess what? You've just killed your own units. But pushing out into the lurkers, there's not a lot of them. The cannon's going to add so much damage on top of this, and storm hits for a lot more than it does in StarCraft 2, guys. StarCraft 2 is like a flat 80 damage. This is like 112. There you go. So it's not a big damage boost where you're like, wow, that's great, fantastic, golf clap. But it's enough to units will take a lot more damage the longer they sit in it. Did he snipe off that observer? For real? Hang on. Yeah, I guess the Scourge just came in and cleaned it up. So the observer now gone. 1 lurker is not the biggest threat in the world, but it is certainly an annoyance. The Overseer falls. Supply blocks Franscar for a moment, but A for effort on this creep block. What is he? Yo, you're supposed to drop the creep over here, my friend. I guess he just sent the overlords around the map and started dropping creep without really looking at where they were. But okay, RSVP is in a bit of a rough spot for sure. Still kind of boxing these bases. He just secures a 3rd, but it's not as important. It's not as critical to get a 3rd base in Starbow as it is StarCraft 2. You can still play off of 2 for a lot longer. Oh, but the problem is he's not going to be able to defend this base. Lings are on top of this, and again, this lurker, such a nasty thing to deal with, does clean it up. Zal's going to chase across the map, but this Archon will get hot pursuit as well. Cannon, or not Cannon, Nexus unfortunately forced to cancel, but oh. Ventricle sacks. What? Gonna go for drops? So what's kind of cool about drops, we'll talk about this in like warp prisms don't really warp in anymore. Medevacs aren't medevacs, but instead drop ships. Drops in general have proven to be a lot more effective in Starbow, just any race, really. So if he goes for ventricle sacks and puts a bunch of lings here in the main, I mean, this is 1 cannon, but a cannon's gonna go down to adrenal gland cracklings like nobody's business. Zerglings are so effective in Starbow compared to the regular StarCraft 2, but there's a lot of lurkers here on top of this. This is not a fight that Franscar wants to, that RSVP wants to take right now. I mean, he can, don't get me wrong, it'll just be a little bit dangerous is all. Chase down off Overlords, though. Still has a couple Storms holstered and ready. This is going to be fantastic to slap down on top of the Hydralisks. Doesn't really need them for the Lings. He's got enough Zealots for this, but again, you guys will notice there's been no Warp Tech invested in at this point in the game because it's just really not worthwhile. I'll describe why if we get a break, but for now, taking the fight here, we'll take out a lot of these Lurkers, but these Zealots are going down quick to the Lurker splash damage. Oh, that Storm, though, was really good. It's going to cook up all those Hydralisks. And looks like with the, oh, wait, did the Observer die again? No, we still got the Observer standing. So with this, the Lurkers will get cleaned up, and Franscar, that was not a fight he really needed to take. He was trying to keep RSVP from going to the north, but that was not a good engagement for him by any means. The Hydralisks eating the Storm certainly did not help matters either, but still about 3 Storms left between these 2 Templar. A bit hesitant to use them, but may just get a little bit desperate as units start flooding in. There's 1 Spine Caller and 1 Lurker to defend with at the moment, though not going to quite cut it. Hydralisk coming from behind as well. These Templar just like throw some Storms down, make an Archon, get another big heavy-duty unit. But Lurkers is going to burrow, and the Archon's going to get made. Now we don't see the phase upgrade here for the Observer. It's kind of neat. It's got the phase shield. If you guys remember Fairy Dragons, or not Fairy Dragons, that's not a good end. That's not a good reference at all for Warcraft. But the point is the Observer can't be auto-attacked while it's enabled. You have to like direct target, which is kind of cool, but not the biggest deal for now. It cleans up the Spine Cars here. The south, some Ultralisks are out, ladies and gentlemen, but the Ultralisks are, while incredibly good, are not going to be effective right now. He needs a lot more of them. He needs support for them, too, on top of this. Beautiful pop. That Storm didn't look like much, but it did get all the Scourges, so protects his Observers once again. But Ultralisks kind of trucking through. You'll notice the Ultralisks look a little bit tinier, a little bit scaled down from the Ultralisks that you are used to seeing. Now the key thing about this is it makes them a lot more maneuverable, a lot less clumsy, and they even have a speed upgrade. So Ultras are a lot better in Starbow than they are in regular StarCraft. They don't have the same insane amount of damage, and they're not the automatic I win versus ground units type unit that you're used to seeing. But okay, recalling out. There we go. This is why it sucks using this. Look how long it takes to activate. You save the units, but it's not like you can use them for like another 20 seconds. Anyways, Franscar's regained control of the map. He's got great upgrades in his favor. He's got level 2 weapons on the way, level 3 armor on top of this. Would love to see chitinous plating invested into, if not at least the ultra speed. There we go. What's this called? Anabolic synthesis. Sounds cool, but really it's just, hey, ultras move a little bit faster. This is getting a little bit worrisome though. RSVP is kind of making, I wouldn't say a mistake. It's not a mistake yet. We've seen him taking good trades and good fights, but Protoss players who typically stay on just Dragoons and Zealots do tend to have a lot of trouble getting into the late game versus any race. Archons are a great addition, and Storms certainly help, but I mean, realistically, you need a little bit of that element X, whatever it may be, whether it's going to be Reavers involved for splash damage, whether it's going to be Arbiters for the stasis field, or even hell, just the cloak. One thing's for sure, pure Dragoons will not win him this game. But I do like the Zealots being constantly reinforced in behind this. Tons of gateways just constantly producing. Even some Dark Templar coming into the mix. Oh, but finally those Vengeful Stacks coming into effect. Ultralists are the ones that are dropped, as well as a couple Lings. But as we see, Dark Templar, guys, they're the one unit that wasn't really changed. A lot of units have changed in Starbow, but Dark Templar are not one of them. So, gets the Templar Archives. Even picks up the Ultralists to save it, which is really cool. But with this, he can't actually build more Dark Templar for the time being. No more Templar either. These last two producing are the ones he'll have for a little bit of time. But a new Templar Archives is coming up in the back, and they should be secure and safe. While this is going on, though, distractions have been made, and Ultralists will get into this Nexus over here on the left side of the map. RSVP looked like he defended that nicely, but it just drew his army away from the more critical point. These Ultralists just tear through everything. With that speed upgrade, man, do they move quick. But doesn't need to take a fight, can just, you know, disengage from here for the time being. A couple Dark Templar are killing units over here on the right side of the map. But here comes an Overseer to save it. But at this point, Franscar has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bases, whereas RSVP is barely on 2. And while I said you don't really need to rely on an expansion as much in Starbow, the reality is eventually you're going to mine out, and eventually you're going to starve out of your own bases. In fact, the natural base is pretty much empty already at this point. So RSVP, well, he's got a massive bank, don't get me wrong, almost 3k minerals. There's 2 key points at this point, where either he has to push and win, or he has to secure a 3rd base, because he's not going to be able to keep trading for the rest of this game. I do like the Dark Templar usage to try and snipe off this Nexus. Again, they haven't changed much. They're still just like your Cloak and Dagger, I hit you and you die type units, but it's not really the top right that matters so much for Franscar. He's still got a lot of other bases outside of the upper corners. And the longer RSVP tunnels on that one base, the worse this could possibly get. Oh, more Archons being produced behind this. I like this. It's not so much like whether they get splash damage or not. They just soak so well compared to Zealots. And these Ultras are certainly going to need to be soaked upon. There's a lot of them, and they hit pretty darn hard, and they hit pretty darn quick. But Dark Swarm is now available. Plague will soon be available, I imagine, after. Oh, I take that back. Sorry, he's gone for the Consume first and then Plague. So not even going to go for Dark Swarm. Does he have Burrow, though? Well, he's got to be careful of these Defilers. These are really vulnerable. This is not how Franscar should be moving right now. I mean, at this point, I'd say just wait on your tech. There we go. So he can use a little bit of Dark Swarm if he wants to. It's a very interesting mechanic. We got another big drop going off. Actually, the Dragoons on the ramp are getting choked up by these Ultras. There's even some Hydralists mixed into this, and a Dark Swarm does go down. Now, for those who don't know how Dark Swarm works, you'll notice none of these units are taking any damage. Units within the Dark Swarm take no damage from ranged attacks, but 50% from splash damage. Either way, it keeps these Ultras alive for way longer than they should have been, allowing the units at the top of the ramp to really just annihilate everything here production-wise. There's a lot of gateways that just went down. The Robo Stream to follow. We got an attack here towards the 3rd, but it's actually ready to be defended, so loses that. But Cybercore might just fall. Surprised he didn't try and finish off the Cybercore. Okay, there we go. Big pickoffs there. Well played. Dark Templar actually eating a good chunk of that storm. This Defiler is probably going to go down. There's no escape for these units this time, but the damage was certainly done. Now really neutered on his production, and with only one base mining, RSVP is in a lot of trouble. I don't know who this Franscar guy is, but he certainly likes his Ultras. Coming in with a lot of Banelings on top of this. This could be the attack that ends the game. In fact, this will be, mark my words, the attack that ends the game. With Dark Swarms coming down, there's no way for anything to connect. He can waste every single Baneling on the back lines if he wants to, but it doesn't matter. There's no way to kill these Ultralists. There's no way to neutralize this force. And even if he cleans this up by some miracle, all Franscar is going to max out behind this. Whereas RSVP is just starving. He's choking. Another Dark Swarm comes down, and Storms are being... well, their damage is being reduced, but still, the damage is... it's going to be hard to recuperate from this. Now basically stuck on one base with almost no production and all the probes hiding. This is looking really bad for RSVP. What's really nice though is it's the best of 3. It's the semifinals. You've come all this way. Of course the tournament's not going to screw you with a best of 1. So Franscar will take game number 1. Ladies and gentlemen, RSVP will be given map pick, and we'll see what map he goes with as we hop into game number 2. I'm going to take a moment to catch my breath and get some water in me while we just basically run some advertisements between this and the next game.